we'll get started. Today, we're going to talk about a new camera, Spectrum features, some updates. We're also going to do a little Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. All right. So let's go over features of our new camera, our XSB F08LIF. So this is a 4K camera, has our Starlight Plus technology in it, our built-in AI deep learning object detection, which can discriminate from people, cars, backpacks, trucks, and several other items in there. Also, it has a powerful mic and speaker built in for excellent two-way communication, alarm input and relay output for access control and different integrations if you want. It has a built-in web server for easy camera management, which you'll see shortly. Full NDAA, TAA compliance, great for government projects, IP66 and IK10 rated with a housing that's built to last and our 5-year warranty on it. So again, a great all-around camera. I actually call it an all-in-one camera myself. So let's get into it. So if you're in Spectrum, you can go in, right mouse button, click on the camera, and you can go to web page and then bring up the web page, this main view of the camera. You can also go to a web browser, type in the IP address, and get to the same page. Most of the item on this particular screen, the video configuration screen, is controlled by Spectrum. So let's say you want to change the codec from 8.264 to 8.265. You can do that in Spectrum. You never even have to go to the screen, or you can use our IP Finder software, which you can download and is compatible with all our cameras. If you want to make like a multi-codec change, so let's say you had 10 of these, 10 of another X-class camera, 20 of another group of cameras, and you can go in and change all the codecs from H.264 to 8.265. Now we ship them with H.264 for one reason: compatibility with other VMSs. Other VMSs sometimes say they're H.265 compatible, but they're not quite. We use H.264 for max compatibility, but again, you can change the to H.265 in bulk with a number of ways, and it's controlled in Spectrum. And as you can see, the resolution, frame rate, profile, how the bit rate is set. And so you can go into Spectrum and make the changes there, so you don't have to worry too much about this page. There might be one or two things you might want to tweak in a very unusual situation. So the next is our on-screen display. So what this does is allow you to put the date and time really anywhere onto the screen, but it'll be burned into the video. Okay, so the date and time stamp from the camera will be burned into the video. And then you can also do some user text, like the camera name or its location on the building or some combination thereof. A lot of times end users won't want the date and time stamp generated by the VMS because they feel that can be altered or whatever. But what we do is we allow you, if you want, to burn it into the video directly from the camera, making it more, shall we say, evidence ready. So the next one we're going to is audio, because this device has a 14-watt built-in speaker, built-in microphone, and so you can adjust the microphone functions here, including the volume, its sample rate, in case you're in like a larger room or you have to put the camera up a little too high, but still want to use the function. The two-way audio function, you can increase or decrease the sensitivity of the microphone. Audio out, you have a couple built-in alarms that are quite loud and annoying. You can adjust the volume, and again, you can adjust the sampling rate. So again, this is for the audio control on the camera because of the audio capabilities of this device. If we also has built into it a privacy mask function. So if there's any sensitive areas around there, you can have spots that'll be blocked from actually using different colored blocks if you want. You can make little squares, rectangles, whatever, to cover views of, let's say, windows. If this thing is pointing near an apartment building or something, and you just want to cover up the windows for privacy or, like I said, other sensitive areas. So again, that's the functionality of this first menu. Then we go into the camera menu, and the camera menu allows you to do this image adjustment. So by default, these are some really good settings. We have the color balance, a lot of other stuff, but you may come across some unusual lighting situations, and you can make some minor adjustments to saturation, contrast, brightness, and sharpness to the cameras. And again, it really depends on lighting. And we do have more lighting items under here under exposure settings. Again, good default settings, but we also have some advanced features. So let's say you wanted to have the default shutter limit, the max shutter limit changed, okay, for objects that are moving faster when it's dark. But for most situations, this will give you the best possible video in the very light circumstances. But like I said, you can go in and make minor tweaks here in unusual and different situations. Also, we have the day-night settings in here. So the day-night settings are factory auto. So as the light sensor hits a certain point, it changes from day to night, so color to black and white, and then some lighting will turn on, IR lighting. You can also change the IR strength. Also night mode, which basically keeps the camera black and white and the IRs on basically 24/7. And then a schedule mode where you can actually set a schedule for when it changes over from black and white to color. Okay, so let's say you wanted it at 7 a.m. It goes from black and white to color and stays on until 7 p.m. So even if it's still a little light out, it changes over to that black and white mode. Now, why you would use the black and white mode is some third-party OCR software where they might use it for license plate reading or even cargo ship container reading. Having the black and white image may work better than the color image, okay? So keep that in mind that it might work better with some third-party software, and that's why we have that in here. And I'm sure there's other situations where it'll work. Also, we have our WDR, wide dynamic range. So the benefits of this is clearer images in challenging lighting. So if you have lobbies looking outside, entrances, parking lots, garage doors, whether you're looking out a garage door or looking into a garage door, it gives you better facial recognition, better view of licenses and other things that are on a vehicle, and improved security footage for real world conditions. So again, great thing. You don't have to always turn it on if it's inside a building and you're not trying to peek out a window or whatever. You can just leave it off. Doesn't need to be on in every situation. We actually have it off from the factory and you can turn it on. So again, white balance. Auto is probably the best feature, but you might be under some weird fluorescent lights, which we cover. Underwater. Again, we don't recommend sticking this thing underwater, but it's also for if you're looking through water, like you're some reason have it pointed at a fish tank. Sometimes you can get better view. From that one, we have a whole manual mode. And then, of course, your cooler to your hotter color temperatures, depending on the lighting in the room. So sometimes you're actually dealing with defective lighting where the lighting has like a yellow tinge to it. And so you want to work some of that out of it. And you can do that here. But like I said, the auto usually works great. It usually will try to adjust it to give you the best possible color it can. Also, we have 3D noise reduction built in here. The image enhancement has the extra setting for the noise reduction. Now also, if you customize the mounting, you have it mounted sideways or upside down, you can flip and mirror the image to give you a more natural looking video. It's not upside down in Spectrum, and then you're flipping it in Spectrum. You're making it proper, or if you're just rotating it 90 degrees for the long hallway effect where you want to record more hallway than wall, you can flip and mirror in here to give you the best possible video. So now we're going to go into the network settings, and from the factory, this device is set for DHCP, but also buried in it is a default IP of 192.168.1.80 and a default user login of admin. But that default login will only give you access to change the default password. Now, you can change the password, you can change the time, you can change the codec we talked about, and several other things using our IP Finder software, and they can automate it. So let's say you got to change the static IPs in these from 192.168 to 180 to 10.10.0 from 10 to, let's say, 90. There's 80 cameras in there. That software can do it for you in a couple minutes versus going in and out of the web browser of each camera and changing it manually. So again, using the IP Finder is an added bonus. You can also do a lot of stuff in Spectrum. Like I said, you can change the codecs in the camera, you can tweak settings, and you can get to these menus again if you need to directly from Spectrum. Also in here, I skipped a bunch of stuff because OnVIF is active. If you want, you can turn on UPnP, and then DDNS, you don't need to use unless the camera is standalone or not uploading via FTP. And because Spectrum has its own mail server in it, we don't need to use SMTP, and SMMP is optional, and that's a network protocol. So the switch and then whatever management software they use on their network can interrogate the device for health and stuff like that. So that's a different items. But the network items you can look up. We have detailed instructions on the manual if you need to use them in some special situation. But the RTSP info gives you what's connected and what IP is connected to it and the type of connection. Okay. You do have some QoS settings, which I suggest leave on 0, which is the highest QoS, so quality of service. So it's going to be the first packets managed out of the camera and managed in the switch. And then, of course, I would leave target stream, which is the mainstream, on factory defaults. So now we're going to look at the alarm ins and outs, the IO, but also another feature in here. If we skip down in the menus to relay output, this is a super useful feature. And there are 2 features you can use to activate these rules. So first off, right here is our API. So this is the exact API for this camera that you can take and trigger these relays, whether they're normally open, normally closed. I would leave them at bit stable, okay? But you can change them to monostable in a certain situation, okay? But what's nice about this is, let's say you wanted to trigger this relay out. Let's say in Spectrum, we have a thing called soft trigger. I'm going to show you the menu here. You can trigger it without using these, but a third-party software can make a call to trigger the relay or deactivate the relay. Okay, so you can have a third party, let's just say part of the access control system sends a command into Spectrum under a generic event, and then this will activate this camera. Now, the cool part about this section is when you change the IP of the camera, the IP in here changes, okay? So it really is, you can just cut and paste the command into it, and as long as you have the correct authentication, the relay will open or the relay will close. So, like I said, nice to have the alarm IO, but also nice to have this information handy so you don't have to call tech support. And then in here is how Spectrum sees it. So I can create a soft trigger, or I can have an analytic event, or on a camera disconnect, trigger an alarm out. Okay. By the way, there's a whole bunch of other rules in here it can trigger on. Okay. You can trigger on the alarm output. You can choose the alarm out. What kind of duration? You can set it by the number of seconds. All right. You can set it on a schedule. So only if a certain time of the day does that event come in, will that trigger the alarm out? And again, if we go to the next setup part in the camera, you can look now at the event rules. So the event rules is where you set up rules in the camera. I'm not showing you that. I'm showing you this section because this, again, you could have different functions, send commands into here to do a sound, to make the LED turn red, to make the green LED, to make a blue LED, a white LED, red, blue flashing LED, turn the LEDs off. So again, you can have soft trigger and events in Spectrum trigger different events here. Maybe you're using a license plate camera, okay, and the license plate is recognized. Green LED turns on and the car proceeds forward after the gate goes up, or whatever you want to use this for. And we're actually very much later on, we're going to talk about another camera we have, which has some really good capabilities. So again, we've got your sound, your red LED, green LED, white LED, but also all the API is right here, and it will have the correct IP address. It won't have the 192.168.1.80. It's going to have 10.10.0.62 or whatever the IP address is here. It changes as you change the IP in the camera. It's really cool and a true cut and paste of getting it set up, which makes it easier for you, and you don't have to call our tech support. So the next section we're going to talk about is the MEGApix AI. And here's the rule section. So it's the beginning. My one thing would say, click here to start. All right. And if you notice, this camera looks a little red because this is the intrusion zone we have built in from the factory. So from the factory, there's a zone in here. You can write a rule and it basically encompasses the whole camera, or you can delete it and add your own rules to it, or keep that intrusion zone, use it for whatever you're using for, and then add another rule in there. Okay. So in total, we have 11 algorithms. Okay. Which are the rules, along with a logical rule and then a non-detect area. So these can be configured in many shapes. So let's say you want to have the shape for the non-detect zone around a bush or a tree or in the sky, and it's uneven because of the way the buildings across the street are, which is if you log into any of our demo cameras here in Tampa, you see a little bit of the sky, and I put that as a non-detect zone because why have the cameras looking at the sky, looking for things, right? But we have intrusion, line cross, enter, exit, appear, disappear, stop, dwell, direction, tailgate, line counting, and logical rule. Logical rule allows you to combine different zones, line crossings, or whatever to create even more accurate event detection. So example, you could have a line cross in the distance detecting people, but only when they hit the intrusion zone, which is closer to the camera, which also detecting, let's just say only people, does it create alert. And this can be a phone notification, an email, an alarm, or an announcement. And we talk about the camera or Spectrum. You can put in Spectrum, you can put a custom announcement in there. So you could record something saying, warning, get off my property, whatever custom announcement you want to do, or a custom sound. Doesn't have to be what's either built into the camera or built into Spectrum. So the logical rules give you greater accuracy. Now, some of the other features of the camera, of course, are the flashing LEDs, the flashing color LEDs. We have another camera that'll turn on, there's white lights and things like that. These will give you active deterrence if people are on your property or in the wrong part of the warehouse at the wrong time of day. We also, though, have another camera, which we did a video on a while ago, the XTS D05 MFQ. It's our QR camera. Okay. So this camera reads QR codes. And if you want, it'll flash a green light saying the QR code, read the QR code and successfully, and it's transmitted that data into Spectrum. Okay. So so this way you can, again, the application is shipping is the one I think about. You put the QR code on the pallet with maybe a little bit of information and the tracking number, and that pallet rolls onto the truck. The guy rolling onto the pallet sees the green light, rolls it on. He has the video of that pallet in perfect condition leaving, and it arrives at the location, and the pallet is just all beat up, stuff's missing or whatever. And this way they have a definitive saying, this thing rolled on the truck. We signed some paperwork. They closed the truck doors and rolled off and arrived at the other location. Not anywhere near the same condition as it went out. So again, great light deterrent and audio deterrent built in the camera, along with other applications you can do with the LED lights. So built into our cameras are these umbrella chips, either the CV22 or the CV25. These are powerful American-made chipset. So this is also called a SoC, or a system on a chip. So this thing has many functions inside the camera, but it gives us the ability to do the things we're doing in there as far as the analytics. Also part of that, though, is very easy to set up these cameras. There is no manual analytic calibration. You literally mount the camera, point it to where you want it, and you're ready to go. Okay. You then go in and, of course, choose the rules you want. It's just completely automatic. You don't have to figure out measured distances or anything like that. So it's a great setup for that. Excuse me. Other features is object tracking. It locks on to people or vehicles in a detection zone, even in low light conditions and complex environments. So the camera can identify and detect multiple objects in view, and use the rules to create reactions, like move a PTZ camera via preset, turn on different lights, make audio announcements. So you won't just see one person. If there's one person, there'll be 2 people, 10 people, 20 people, 40 people, 8 cars, 9 cars. Some cars are moving, a car and a truck. It reacts to all those and classifies all those. Actually, something that's not on here is a feature in Spectrum, which will allow you to, just going to go to the next slide. There's a feature in Spectrum that allows you to do analytic object detection, meaning you have an area laid out or you have the whole camera set up with no rules in it. It's still detecting objects, and you can have that come into Spectrum like motion detection. And then if an object is in front of the camera, it'll record, or you can create an alert off of it. So it's just not using the line cross and detection areas, enter X and all that stuff for alarming. You can also just simply use it as a record function, because as things are progressing in our business, we're going to start pushing stuff up to the cloud, and motion detection is not going to be good for that because it reacts to clouds. It reacts to light flashing on a screen, trees moving, shadows, all that stuff. So if you go to pure object detection, you can then say, okay, I have some local storage and I'm going to push only these objects up to the cloud. All right. So again, it's a great option built into the camera, but also built into the Spectrum. So now let's do a quick, excuse me. I'll have to cut that out. My voice is going again. All right. Anyway, so we're going to highlight a feature, the storage calculator in Spectrum. All right. This is an underused feature, I think. And basically what it does, it gives you this current statistics, gives you the right now, the bit rate, calendar days stored, the amount of space they're using. And again, this will vary by the activity in front of the camera. So we got some cameras using 7 terabytes, some camera using 4 terabytes. But this thing, of course, this is a 40 terabyte EJ AI DX. And so it's been recording for quite a while. I think it's up to, 5 months. Okay. Now, we also have the forecast function. So now you can say, okay, here's what it's thinking. It's got 6 cameras, right? We've used a total of 32 terabytes, and we're going to get between 5 and 6 months, depending on the camera and how we do it. So down here is also our additional storage setup. So let's say you wanted to figure out how to make this thing go to 6 months. Okay. We're going up here. Oh, you go to camera settings and you can change the bit rate. You can change the frame rate. You can change it. Does it just record on objects? Motion plus objects. I have this thing set for motion plus continuous, so it's recording the second stream. This happens to be a PTZ camera, so it's on auto track. And we can go in here and allow us to do tweaks of the settings like H.265 or whatever. But this allows you from that menu direct access to the camera settings. You're like, oh, this thing is set for 30 frames a second. I got to lower that. That wasn't part of the job. All right. But also, you can go over here and you can say longest period available, or the last 5 minutes or the last 24 hours, and go in here and add storage either by the slider or by here and say, okay, I'm adding 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes of storage, and it will calculate out by this how much more time you have. Okay, how much more time storage you've added. All right, so it gives you that. Now you can do this after you do a full install and wait a little while. It'll give you that 5-minute period or 24-hour period. I would say a minimum of logging in 24 hours and looking at what it says. Maybe wait a week and looking at it again. Just make sure you're getting the time that was promised to the customer. And again, a great feature built into Spectrum. I don't think it's used very much. Now, I'm going to go to some of our things we're doing coming up. So first off, we're inviting all viewers of this video, at least until January 1st, 2026, to participate in a free trial of My DW services. But the first thing you got to do is create a CPP account for your company. So do that if you don't already have one. If you're viewing this video separately, please, by all means, you can use the same thing. Go to that web link down below and set up your CPP account. Now, then you go to HTTPS, don't have to say that, right? www.mydw.cloud.login, click free trial, put in your company name and what you want your desired organization to be, click send, and someone will get with you and send you an email about setting up your organization in MyDW, which will allow you to take advantage of it. So if your company is, I don't know, ABC Alarm, you could use some variation of that name, or ABC Alarm Cloud, whatever you want to call it, or just ABC Alarm. And then you'll, again, put the email in there, and then we'll contact you and set up the organization for you. The next thing is our webinar schedule. So this was, of course, today's July 24th. July 31st, we have a webinar on MyDW services specifically, and Scott Capoletti and Soman Lee will go through a bunch of information on that about setting it up, understanding how it works, the benefits to you. On the 28th, I'll be doing a webinar, a little bit of MyDW services, but we're also releasing an NVR close to that time. And so I'm going to go over more of the hardware aspect of it. And then we'll have a couple of other ones in September and October already scheduled. So keep that in mind. Digital-watchdog.com, customer webinars. And then, of course, DW University. We have some live training coming up for Spectrum, Lithia Springs, Georgia, Anaheim, California. And if you go to this webpage, we just added Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and we'll be adding more in the coming days. We'll be doing live classes very shortly. And then now, let me take a couple of questions if possible.